Hello, fellow nerds. In just 3 days, I watched all of Yellowjackets, and on that final episode, I have more questions than answers. But now that we know that there are more survivors, I think it's time to finally start throwing out some theories on who will be the final girl. Now, before we dive into this, we really need to be on the same page about a few things. For one, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen the show, don't blame me for ruining it for you, okay? 2, the only thing we know for facts are what we see and hear in the show. Now, to go under the umbrella of that, I haven't researched anything from showrunners, writers, as their minds change all the time, and people in these positions have ruined every show, every single one I have tried to enjoy for years, unless I ignore them completely until the series is over. 2, the show balances both mysticism and reality, so unless proven otherwise, we can only go on what we see and hear. So that taps into the first part of my little list here. Now, see, the show touches on mental health, but we can't put our own diagnoses on others, so until we know for sure, we're just left with some tidbits. Finally, now, yes, there are completely logical explanations for things that have happened, but until we know for sure, or it becomes relevant, we can't use that as facts. So even though we know that there could be Mercury being a possibility, some things that we know are that they've been starving. Some things we know is that they've been drinking some joy juice and, they're mentally, iffy, I'll say, right? We know all of that, but like I said, there are things that fall under logic and reason that we haven't seen yet. And until we do, then we'll just leave that where it is. Great. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about. The first thing I wanted to do is I want to take a look at who's actually left, right? These are people who are definitely still alive in the current time of the show. We have finished up season 3, so basically seasons 1, 2, and 3 are all going to be incorporated in this, and that's what we have to sort of work with, right? So the first one is Shauna. Now we know that Shauna is clearly still alive, but she looks like she's about to stir up a lot of problems, and as we all know, in trying to fix things, she will almost certainly make them a gazillion times worse. We know that she was the Antler Queen, but we don't know if she was the last queen before they were eventually rescued, and I have a feeling things are going to get vicious between her and her daughter Callie, so we will have to see how that pans out. Other than that, she is still alive. Now, 2, we know that Taissa is still alive. She is out for revenge, but she also wants to end the cycle of events that have followed them for the past 25 years. She has lost everyone she has ever tried to love, including her family, and even though she is aware that Shauna is the reason for their recent troubles and for Van being taken away from her by Melissa, I do believe she'll get her revenge, but she will have to pay the cost. The third person that is clearly still alive is Misty. Misty will be alive for a bit longer. Misty, she has endurance, that's what I'll say. So we know that Misty is a master manipulator, and if it wasn't for her, the group would have been found far sooner than 19 months. She also wants to see an end to the cycle, but I'm not sure she realizes she'll lose all her friends if that cycle is ended. But then again, she might know that and might continuously intervene to save Ty's life, as she is a self-proclaimed protector. I don't believe she'll protect anyone else at this point. I do believe that the one that she will try to save is Ty. Now, Melissa. Well, the fact that Melissa's still alive was a major plot twist of season 3, and we never actually see her die. She ran off before Ty found Van. I think she might have a role to play in the future as well. Don't know what it is yet, but I can see that happening. Whether or not Hillary comes back to play the role, I don't know, but that's who she's being played by. Now, we do have Jeff and Walter still around, and even though I find Walter sus, I think they are both red herrings and plot devices. I don't think they're really going to have anything else to do with anything, so I don't think they're going to die. I don't think anything like that's going to happen with them, but we'll just have to wait and see. Who's not definitely left? These are people that are basically, we know that no one's really talked about them as adults, so we don't know what happened to them for sure. Everyone else we can just pretty much assume is dead so far, but who knows? So we have Sweet Aquila. I really hope she's still alive. No one has said anything about her being around or not. We'll have to wait for season 4 for that reveal. She might be in hiding like Travis was, and I could actually see her living on a farm with loads of animals, or maybe a vet or something like that, but definitely something dealing with animals. That is if she's still alive. Now, Brittany. Brittany had 4 lines. Is anyone going to speak to Team Brittany so that she can have maybe a few more? I mean, come on. We haven't seen her as an adult, but she's definitely still alive in the wilderness by the end of season 3, and no one talks to or about her. She's just kind of there making ooh, ah faces, right? That's another one who we really don't know what happened to. But then there is Lottie. Now, I know Lottie has died in the season, I'm only 50% sure she's not actually gone though, and it wouldn't be the first time that she quote unquote died and came back. She still could have a role to play. I don't know for sure whether or not, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. So out of all of these women, who do I think will be the final girl? So I'm gonna throw a few theories your way, and you can agree, disagree, whatever. It doesn't really matter. These are just things that I've been kind of rolling around in my brain bowl, right? I think Melissa knows where Akila is, and Shauna will find them both together, right? I think she's going to run to her for help, and there's going to be some reveal of Akila. That's, again, if Akila's not dead yet, but we'll see. I do think Shauna is going to kill Melissa, and if Akila's still alive, I think she's going to kill her too. But I think that Ty is going to be the one to kill Shauna. Now, I say this because Ty is the only one that Shauna's afraid of. If you're watching the series, she's the only one who she ever backed down from, who she ever just finally ended up agreeing with, even if she didn't agree. But she wouldn't really fight against her too much, because once she saw that, the other Ty, once she saw the other Ty, it was like, I don't really want to play around with that. And she backs down. So I do think this kind of opens a door for Ty to be the one to kill her. As far as Misty's concerned, I think she's going to accidentally kill Ty. I think that it's going to be something along the lines of how Nat died. Not in the same exact way, but I think there's going to be some sort of accidental kill of her. I don't think she's going to intentionally kill her. And if she does, then, potentially Ty could have had sort of that break again and wasn't Ty, but she was the other Ty, and Misty would have had to kill her in that way. So I do think that might potentially happen, but I do think that what that will do is it'll give Callie, Shauna's daughter, the opportunity to kill her. So at first glance, Misty would be the final girl, but let's think about this, right? For one, she survived so much without any temporary death, not counting surviving the plane crash. We can't count that, but she hasn't really fake died. She's worked to protect the secrets of the wilderness as well. And if we're going under the philosophy of how the wilderness actually works, then that would be a reason to keep her around longer. So we'll see. The other thing is she kept the group in the wilderness for longer than necessary when she broke the lockbox. And I do think that if we're following the mysticism behind the show, then that would sort of be a big sacrifice, a sacrifice to the wilderness, a gift of sorts, right? We're going to have to wait on that. I don't think that she's going to be the final girl. In reality, I think the show is intentionally misdirecting here, just like they did with Mari. You didn't know who Pit Girl was, but you kind of knew by like the end of season 1. You kind of knew. To have it fully confirmed, by passing on the gold necklace to different people and whatever, you didn't really think it was going to be Mari. I don't know. That was a switch. I wasn't surprised, but it was still sad nonetheless. I didn't really like Mari, but I didn't dislike her either. Also, Missy hasn't really learned anything from any of her actions. I mean, none of them have. In fact, she's only gotten better at being devious. I think the show is pushing you to think it's Misty, just like the show was pushing you to believe that Pit Girl was Jackie. I think it's doing the same thing with Misty here. In the end, the only one this really leaves is Callie. For me, all signs are pointing to Callie. I think she will ultimately break the cycle. And if the show wants to be a real pain in the ass, they'll hint to her starting a new cycle of her own. Yes, I know she wasn't actually in the wilderness, but they've already acknowledged that they've brought the wilderness back with them. So Callie isn't off the hook. That's who I believe will be the final girl. After all, this is only a theory, and I'm glad there's a show that allows me to think for myself and have theories about it. Let me know down below who you think will be the final girl. I'm fascinated to get some other perspective. Thanks, nerds.